and faculty members. Northwestern Middle School welcomes Mr. Kevin Robinson. Mr. Robinson is a noted author of several books such as Split Seconds, Mallrats, and A Matter of Perspective. His mystery novel series stars David Stick Foster, a wheelchair-bound detective. Put your hands together and welcome Mr. Kevin Robinson.
Great job, my man. Thanks. Well, guys, I am so impressed. When I found out that I was at the wrong place and I'd driven so far away, you don't mind if I get casual, do you? And if anybody can't hear me, put your hands up. But I'm going to lay back because this way I can just let my back rest and I can be comfortable and we can all be comfortable. I was so impressed. Well, they're going to wait for you. I said, there's no way. Kids that age are going to wait for me and I've still got 40 minutes before I can get there? And they said, yes. So thanks, that means a lot. We went to the wrong school. And you know, the lady was so gracious at the other school, but she had this kind of puzzled look in her face, like, who are you and why are you here? But she didn't want to come out and say that, so I didn't exactly know that I was in the wrong place. And I just thought maybe there was a scheduling problem, and so I went on my way. And when I got down in Orlando, I was teaching at a place called the Edgewood Boys Ranch. And it was a school for first offenders in the courts, for kids from broken homes, for abused kids, just every kind of kid that was having a tough time. This was a place where they could go. And it was a big ranch with a lake and boats and a school there and places to live and house parents. It was a pretty neat place for kids that had a rough time. And I came out of school one day, and it was a nice hot 85-degree Florida afternoon, and the kids came up to me and said, Mr. Robinson, we'd just really like to go swimming today, but there's only one other adult available to supervise us. And they had to have two. And I had cutoffs in the pickup truck, and it was just that kind of afternoon where the lake sounded really good. So I got my cutoffs on, and I went down to the lake, and I went out in the dock, and I started to climb over the dock railing so that I could jump into the water. Just sort of felt this little wiggle first, and then this kind of nasty sounding crack. And then all of a sudden, next thing I know, I was falling. And the first thing I thought of was, who am I going to land on? Are there kids down there that I'm going to hit? So instead of balling up in a ball, I'd probably been fine. I kind of twisted on my way down to look. I mean, like I could have done something about it. I couldn't have done a thing about it. So all of a sudden, boom, I hit the water at an odd angle, and it snapped my neck really hard to the right. And all of a sudden, my arms were just locked up like this, and I couldn't move them. And I didn't have any feeling in my legs, and I was face down in the water, and I couldn't move. Now, the only thing I could hear, you know how you can hear pretty good when your ears are in the water? The only thing I could hear was kids laughing. They thought Mr. Robinson was playing a funny on them. And I'm thinking, boy, I hope somebody turns me over pretty quick, because I can't breathe. I'd been a forest ranger in the state, and I had just finished maybe a year before my advanced first aid training. So I knew what a neck injury was, and I knew what a spinal cord injury was. Your spinal cord runs up and down those vertebrae of your back, and it carries all those electronic messages from your brain to the rest of your body. Well, when there's an injury, wherever that injury is, those messages can come down that far, and then they don't go any further. So depending on how high up or down your back you're injured, that will determine where you're paralyzed. Now, I'm a quadriplegic. That means quad means four. That means my legs and my hands are affected. If I'd have been injured another inch or two down, I'd have been a paraplegic. And Stick Foster, the character in my book, is a paraplegic. That means he has full use of his arms. He can make a fist, make his hands close all the way like mine used to. And he's paralyzed from maybe the stomach or the waist down. But I'm paralyzed from the chest down. So that's why I get lazy whenever I have a chance to lean back against a wall, because then I can use my hands and I don't have to worry about trying to keep my balance. When I sit up straight, I'm all the time gravity's wanting to pull me over because I don't have any stomach muscles anymore to help hold me up like you guys do. So when I lean back like this, it's just a nice way to sort of cheat and relax and not have to worry so much about keeping upright. Well, so that's how I got to be where I am. And then my next problem was, well, what am I going to do for a living? How am I going to make a living? I was in a hospital bed in Florida for about 6 or 7 weeks. They had a big, giant, you know what a tuning fork looks like? Have you ever seen a little silver tuning fork? You bang it, and it makes a tone, and you can tell if your instrument's in tune. Well, they had a tuning fork that was like this big, and it went over my head, and it was drilled into the side of my head with 2 screws, and at the top of the tuning fork was a cable. And this cable went over the top of my bed and down and hung off a pulley and then there were barbell weights on that. And what they wanted to do was stretch my neck to take the pressure off that place where the injury was, to let it heal up as much as it could. And so I was in a bed strapped in like that for 6 weeks, and I couldn't move. The bed was a big electronic, they called it a circle electric bed. It was a big giant circle, and I'm stretched across the center of it, strapped in with this pulley behind me. And every 2 or 3 hours they'd come in and they'd put a sort of like a bed mattress thing on me and strap it down, and then the whole bed would turn. It would be this big, long electric thing. They'd turn me over like a big hot dog, going to get the other side cooked. And then I'd be face down. And they'd pop the back off so that my back could breathe and they could keep me clean and stuff. And so I was in the hospital for a long, long time. And all that time I'm thinking, man, I'm paralyzed. I'll never walk again. I can't use my hands again. What am I going to do? What am I going to do with my life? How am I going to work? How am I going to get a job? Will I ever be happy again? I had a 1.5-year-old baby girl. My wife, I thought, boy, they're going to leave me. Life is going to be awful. How am I going to face all this? And then you know what? People from an organization called the Orlando Orange Wheels wheelchair basketball team started to come visit me. Guys and gals in wheelchairs who played basketball, who did track and field, who played tennis, who drove hot cars. And I started to talk to these folks, and I thought, man, these people are cool. They're in wheelchairs, but they're real people. They have real lives. Maybe I can do this too. And all of a sudden, then the next thing you know, now my mind's not on the negative anymore. My mind's on, how's this game played? I got to learn these rules. That's all I need to know, is know the new rules, and I can do this. So when I talk at schools, what I'd like to do is share the 3 most important things that I learned. And I call them the weapons of personal success. Life is hard for everybody, not just for me. You guys know that at your age. Man, you're at that cool age when everything is happening. This is where it counts. This is where you're making all the neatest decisions in your life. And you know how sometimes your parents are a little frustrated? Because it seems like one day you're going this way, and one day you're going this way, and the next day you've changed your mind. Well, that's what it's all about. This is the magic time for you. Well, when I was in that hospital bed, I got another magic time. I got to think, and I got to have to make new decisions all over again. And I'm convinced that there are 3 weapons that every one of us has. And they're wonderful. They're special. And nobody can ever take them away. And we can throw them away. And I'll talk about that later. But that's a choice you have to make. The 3 weapons are easy. One is character, one is knowledge, and one is resolve. And I'm going to take just a couple of minutes to talk about all 3 of those, because the reason I'm here, the reason I've written and sold 3 novels, the reason I have 2 other fantasy novels sitting on an editor's desk, the reason I've sold 60 or 70 magazine articles, I've learned a whole new career and started over, is because when I grew up, people in my life taught me these 3 weapons. Now what's the first one? Character. Fans, that's who you are. You're making those decisions now, and this is a great time in your life. You get to decide. Mom and Dad don't decide that for you. You can have the best teachers or the worst teachers in the world. They can't decide that for you. The kids in your neighborhood can't decide that for you. The TV can't decide that for you. It is your decision, and you get to make it. You don't have to be grown up to make it. You make it right now, and then you work on it. Your character is just who you are at the core. It's not who you put on for show. It's not who you put on to impress somebody. It's who you really are in your heart. Now, how do you figure that out? Well, I'll tell you what, one of the first things that I did was I started looking at the people that I don't want to be like. And it's sad to say, you don't have to look very far to find people that you just don't want to be like. Their character's just not very good. Back in November, a drunk driver crossed 4 lanes of traffic and hit my daughter Melissa. She's 19. She's a freshman at the University of Kansas. She was driving my wife's car up the street in the middle of town, and this guy decided to go into McDonald's. He didn't see her. He didn't see anything. He was drunk as a skunk. He came across there and boom, hit the front of my wife's car, just totaled that car. My daughter banged up her knee. She had her seatbelt on. She was okay, so we're really thankful, but the car's wrecked. So we got the insurance. We started looking for another car. Now we went to a car dealer. We found a car my wife liked. It had 80 or 90,000 miles on it. We could buy it for the amount of money we had. So I started talking to the salesman about the car. Now, somebody who knew about Hondas. We'd never had a Honda before, but this particular Honda at 80,000 miles, you're supposed to change the timing gear. I don't know, what do I know from timing gears? But 2 or 3 people who knew told me that. So I said to the car salesman, has this timing gear been changed? Well, he went, made a phone call, came back and said, no, it hasn't, and you're right, that really should be done. We'll take care of that for you at the first opportunity. I thought, well, that's really nice of him to do that. And I went home. Phone rang a little later. She said, I made a special appointment. I got it in. The timing gear is being put on. The timing chain is being put on for you right now. I thought, boy, that's nice. I appreciate that. Called me about 3 or 4 hours later. Said, we had that on. We changed the water pump while we were there. It's all taken care of. You can come get it anytime you want. I said, boy, that's great. So when my wife was done work, we went down to pick up the car, signing all the papers. Everything's fine. Something just clicked, and I said to myself, I think I'd like to have a record of that, because if we sell the car, it would be nice to show the next person that buys the car that, yes, the timing gear has been changed, the water pump's been changed, you don't need to worry about it. So the business manager at the car dealership, sure, no problem. She called the manager, the parts or service manager up, said, could you send over the paperwork on that? And he kind of came in looking a little sheepish. He said, well, we had that car in the shop a couple of weeks ago, and we changed the oil, but we've never changed the timing gear. We've never changed the water pump. What kind of character does that salesman have? He doesn't have any character at all. He's sleazy. I call them weasels. I don't know what you guys call them. I call them weasels. When I see people like that who will do anything, who will say anything to make a buck, I don't want to be like them. I don't want my daughter to be like them. I don't want you guys to be like them. They have no character. About this, I'm going to go out on a limb here and be a little naughty. When you get home and your folks say what you do today in school, you can show them, but if they're mad, you can say, well, he made us do this. I want you to write on your hand what I tell you to write. It's going to be short, it's not going to take long. When you're done, pass the pen to somebody next door. The first word is nothing. Nothing worthwhile. Write small so you can print. It's just one sentence. Write it on your hand. Nothing worthwhile. Nothing worthwhile was ever built. I'll repeat it. And be sure and pass the pen to somebody next door. You're going to remember this. If you forget everything else I say, you're going to remember this. Don't repeat this. Don't show this to your little brothers and sisters. Nothing worthwhile was ever built. You guys with me? Nothing worthwhile was ever built on bullshit. Now, I'm not going to say that again, but you write it down. This is not a word you haven't heard before. Now, that's how strongly I feel about that, guys. That's how strongly I feel about integrity. And you know it, don't you? I don't need to tell you that. In your hearts and in your souls, you know that's the truth.